Well, hello everyone. I want to thank everyone up front for your time and joining us on this this webinar. My name is Derek Melber, and I will be conducting your webinar today. And I believe we have a very, very intriguing and interesting webinar that I want to go over with you today. As I go around the world and talk to administrators, often we discuss ManageEngine and the AD Solutions team. We discuss this idea of automating Active Directory users quite a bit, and I get a sense that often administrators kind of look at us like, yeah, you can do that, but it can't be that easy. So we wanted to put together a live webinar for you, and when I mean live, I'm actually going to build everything in front of you so you can see how this is done, and then we're going to actually create the users. So I believe it's going to be very compelling for you and hopefully give you some insight into what you can do with ADManager Plus. Before we get started, I do want to quickly go over some housekeeping things and give you a little bit of information about me. With regard to housekeeping, there are some people in the background helping us on this webinar that can answer your questions. So please, if you do have any questions, use the GoToWebinar question on the right-hand panel that you have there, and they'll be able to answer those for you. This will be recorded as well, so we should be sending out a link to the recording, and we're pretty excited about this information. With a little bit of information about me, as I said, my name is Derek Melber, and my title here at ManageEngine is Technical Evangelist, which means that I get to go around the world, and as you see there, the 2016 World Tour, these are not all the dates, but I couldn't put them all on there. But these are some of the cities that we've been to in 2016, and you see that we still have quite a bit of world hopping to do in 2016. And this does not include our user conferences or the user groups that we've been to as well. So we really try to make our efforts across the world, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that. I also want to point you to a couple of different resources. First and foremost, that is my email address, and I love to receive emails as I'm responsible for doing some writing and videos on a weekly basis, and I need some input on the questions that you have, so I can not only hopefully answer your questions and get you moving along, but I can also take your questions and put them into a blog or a video for everyone else. Two more resources that I want to point you to. One is our Active Directory blog. And if you go to our main landing page here, which is ManageEngine.com, and you come over here to Community, and under Community you go to Blogs, Active Directory, you will see that we have a weekly blog, and the weekly blog has been wildly successful. And the point of the blog is really just to help organizations and administrators better understand Active Directory, and also try to resolve some common problems that are worldwide. And you'll see here, based on some topics that are even listed here, we don't always just talk about our products. Actually, it's about 50-50. So, you know, we try to give you information about how the world is seeing Windows, Microsoft, Active Directory, and just trends that are going on. So this is a great location for you to come and get some information. Also, I want to point you to our hardening site, our security hardening site. The security hardening site is really some of the foundational concepts of our 2016 World Tour, which we were just in California, Texas, and up in Illinois. And you know, we really try hard to get information to our customers and potential customers with regard to as much information as we can. And if you go back to our main landing page, you'll see here just ManageEngine.com, and if you click on Active Directory, you'll see a drop-down panel. And in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see Security Hardening for Active Directory. And this Security Hardening site has been built specifically for you. You can clearly see here that I got to the page without putting any credentials in, and you will not have to put any credentials in either, or put in information about yourself. And towards the bottom of this page, we have some amazing information that is organized to help you secure Active Directory, your domain controllers, and your Windows servers. So please come get this information. You will not find all of this information in one site anywhere else on the web, and we feel pretty honored that we're able to get you this information in such an organized way. So that's just a little bit about our resources. Please email me, check out our sites, no information about you. But I do want to jump into our topic today as I am pretty excited about it. And our topic today is going to be automating the creation of user accounts. Now, what I want to do first is I just want to kind of set up what's required here. And then I want to kind of go each and every component that needs to be set up, because I want you to see firsthand how simple this can be. And when I say simple, we're going to get done in about 35 minutes, me going over all the details. So once you get ADManager Plus yourself, it's going to take you less than a half an hour to create automations that will create user accounts for you, so you can do in your environment what I'm going to show you what's possible here in this environment. So what I want to do is I want to kind of go over the moving parts. So these are all the moving parts that we have with regard to automation in ADManager Plus. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back here, and I want to, let's see if I can find, sorry, I'm struggling with my PowerPoint here. All right, so I'm just going to use my mouse. So you'll see here that we have a list of users, okay? So we're going to go from the left to the right in the process. We have a list of users that are new employees that have to have a user account here all the way over here in Active Directory. How do we get a list of new employees' names to show up as Active Directory user accounts? Well, to use the solution that we're suggesting, you simply create a CSV file, and the CSV file is going to look like this. So you will see that there's a given name, first name, surname, last name, and a template name. And that's all that's going to be required. Now, we also have to create these templates. If we have a template name, of course we need to have the templates themselves. So these are going to be the associated templates related to the different employees and which department they're going to work. Now, once we have the templates created that are going to create all of the attributes for the user accounts, we simply now need to implement workflow. Now, workflow is not a requirement here, but I'm hoping to convince you that workflow is a very important aspect of the automation process. What we do not want is we do not want something, right, to create user accounts that are incorrect without us first verifying that they're correct. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let me give you insight into what others are trying to do and how they're trying to do this automation concept. Now, if I were to go into my domain here, this is my domain controller. You'll see I have Active Directory users and computers. And if I were to try to automate the creation of users in Active Directory users and computers, you're going to see, as you know fully, that I really don't have that option here. I mean, the best that I can do in Active Directory users and computers is to create a single user account, which is not automated in any way. Now, Microsoft, over the years, the last 16 years, really hasn't given us much with regard to helping us with account management. Now, of course, Microsoft does have the Active Directory module for PowerShell. Now, if I go into the Active Directory module for PowerShell, and I go and I do a get help on new AD user, you will see that I get the information with regard to basically creating Active Directory users. And you'll see here that there is every possible attribute that you can configure. And if you actually go in and you do a get help new AD user examples, you can get Microsoft examples around how to use the new AD user command. So could I, using PowerShell, automate bulk user import to get users from a CSV file into Active Directory? And the answer is yes. Now, unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't give us an example for bulk user import. But I'm going to tell you, without any apprehension, this is not the way to go. Because if I try to import a CSV file of users using PowerShell, I don't have any templates. And if I don't have the templates, which I'm going to go back here and we're going to take a look at templates again, if I don't have templates, that means that my CSV file has to manually be updated for every possible attribute for every user that I'm importing. And PowerShell doesn't have a "are you sure" option before it creates the user accounts. And for those of you that are listening, how many times have you used PowerShell hoping it was going to do A, but instead of A it did B, and then you have to take hours to clean up what PowerShell did because you didn't know what it was going to do until it was done? I don't want you to do that. I want you to have the assurance that what you're doing in the background is working. So the workflow process is going to basically take the administrator, right, and include them in the approval process of the users that need to be created. So notice, let me just recap what we went over. I have a list of new employees. Those new employees go into a CSV file. The CSV file uses a template. The template creates the user and all of their attributes. And the administrator at the end gets to verify and approve the new users created in Active Directory. And all of this, except for the approve button, is done automatically. Let's walk through the steps. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the user creation templates. Okay? So we're going to sit right here in the middle and we're going to talk about how to create these user creation templates. Now, this is a view of the options in the user creation template and ADManager Plus. I'm going to reiterate again and again throughout the webinar where we differ from tools like PowerShell. PowerShell does not even have a switch or an option for templates, so I can't even show it to you. These templates are fully encompassing of the attributes that you need to configure for user accounts. You'll notice I have the account properties, contact information, I have exchange, terminal services. I can even do custom attributes. So let's go in and let's set up user creation templates. So I'm going to come in here to ADManager Plus. Now, for those of you that do not have ADManager Plus, this is going to be new to you. For those of you that already have ADManager Plus, I'm going to walk through what you're probably familiar with, trying to give you insights into some of the attributes. Okay? Now, I log in, and under my AD management, I have user creation templates. Now, we're going to create 3 users in our automation today. Of course, it could be much more than that, but I'm going to be doing this live, so I don't want to be typing a bunch of usernames. Okay, so we're going to be creating 3 users in 3 different departments. We're going to be creating a finance user, an IT user, and an executive. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you what these templates look like. You will notice here with my templates that I have all of the information. Now I can click on these because they're live. So you'll see here that I can set the account to disabled, I can set up groups, all of my logon scripts, home directories, contact information such as telephone numbers are here. I can have exchange information, so if I have a mailbox enabled user, I can have that. I have down here to custom attributes if I have any custom attributes. So I have all of these options available to me. Okay? Now what I want to do is I want to walk you through some of the nuances for what you're going to want to configure for these templates. First and foremost, you want to have a naming context, okay? So the user that's created has to have a naming convention. So we provide for you a list of naming conventions that you can also customize. You'll notice down here that I have first space last. I was dealing with some, had a Windows pre-2K logon question. All of these are 100% customizable. You can go here and you can customize your own naming format. Very simple. We give you instruction, and you can go through and you can set up how you want the naming convention. That's first and foremost. Now, with regard to the naming convention, you also have to make decisions on all the different names. So you're going to have a logon name and a pre-2K logon name. Well, you can make these different or you can make these the same. So the logon name is kind of the foundation for the template, okay? So the way that the Active Directory is created, the logon name has to be there. It can't be the same as pre-2K logon name or anything like that, okay? So you have display name, full name that you can fully customize. The email can be customizable with regard to a naming convention. And when you go to this option here that I showed you for the naming format, anything that you configure in there and then save is going to show up in this drop-down list for all of these potential configurations. You'll see them all listed here, okay? So that's what I wanted to go over first. Second of all, we have to worry about where the object is going. So here you can see that I have placed my finance user in the finance OU. So again, keep in mind what we are doing is we're configuring all of the attributes that are critical for the user account at the inception of the creation of the user. And we're not typing anything in because that could cause errors. We're actually using the template to do it for us. Now, we're going to move on to account. What do we have under account? You have to configure the password. Now, for the last 9 months to a year, as I've been going around our world tour, I've been educating administrators and organizations on the ramifications that can occur when you use traditional tools to create passwords. Now, I'm going to jump back here to Active Directory users and computers real quick, and I'm going to go through the Microsoft way of creating a new user. So let's say that I create a new user, Chad's my new user. Okay? When I get to the password here, I am finding, as I ask this question around the world, that over 75% of organizations use the same password for every new user that's created. This is a big problem. And why? Well, the problem isn't solved by user must change password next logon. Because if I know the password, well, I now can change it as the attacker. So my question to you is, have you really considered who knows this password for all new user accounts that you're creating? If you've been using the same password for the last couple of years. That's right. Everyone in the organization knows the password because it's been the same. And I'm going to instruct you to please go and get a tool, run a script, do something that can expose to you all of the user accounts that have never logged on before. Now, if you go to ADManager Plus and you go to AD Reports, you go to User Reports, users never logged on, I can get you that report in seconds. But what I'm telling you is this report right here is possible to be generated without ADManager Plus from any user in the organization. Let me say that again. Any user in the organization can run a query against Active Directory to get a list of users that have never logged on before. And if I can get a list of users that have never logged on before, and every user that's been created has the same password, now I can log on as any of those users. So we want to make sure that we have security at the highest, so we're going to use a random password, okay? Now, you can also go in and set complexity. You can make sure that the password is meeting what you have in the organization at the domain level. Now, with regard to the other configurations, we can set group membership. Now, we're talking about the finance template, so I want the finance group to be included here, so I want any user that's using the finance template to be added to the finance group. And of course, this is just a pick, you pick, slide them over, and you can add in all your groups. All of these spaces that you're familiar with in the Microsoft tools that use wildcards, we can do that here as well. Now notice when I click on the home folder, I have a drop down here. This is automatically in the tool, giving you examples of what you would want. I want to point out that right here you can use percent username percent, which will pull the username in, so that now you're able to dynamically create this information on where the user has their path, their profile path, their home folder, and all these other things that need to be user-centric. So the wildcards are supported in here as well, which completely makes sense. Okay? Now, you also have the ability to configure Exchange. Now, you'll notice that I do not have an Exchange server in my demo environment, but you do see all of the options that are available for you to configure Exchange mail-enabled users. This is powerful stuff. We are giving you the opportunity to configure all of these attributes for Exchange simply with a CSV file, and that CSV file is going to have first name, last name, and template name. That's powerful. Now, some of you might be over in Office 365, and you might have Exchange Online. If you have Exchange Online, well, guess what? I have a solution help for you as well. Now, I'm in a different environment here because I have my demo environment, which is kind of isolated. So I'm going to branch out on the internet here where we do have Office 365. I'm going to go to my user creation templates. Very similar, it's the same tool. But what I'm going to show you is the options for remote mailboxes. So here you see enable remote mailbox, and you can configure this information for your remote mailbox. Obviously, the Exchange information is right here as well, right? If you're using external mail, we have those configurations for you. And we have Office 365, which means that you can actually create the Office 365 account when you're creating the Active Directory user account. Now, those of you that have been using Office 365, you know how important this is. You know how important it is to have a tool that can do Exchange on-prem, Exchange online, and Office 365 just through the user creation template, okay? So this is some pretty important stuff and extremely powerful, all right? So back in what we're doing today, I just showed you what those settings were. Back in what we're doing today, we're not going to do Exchange or Exchange Online, but you can clearly see how easy that would be. Now, we also can do Link, we can do Skype, terminal services, all these other configurations are here. So it is extremely important to make sure that you set up everything in the template to make sure that the template is doing all the work for you. All right. Once I have my templates, you'll see that I have my IT template, my finance template, but I don't have an executive template. Now, we want to make sure that you're efficient during this process, because if any step along the way is inefficient, then the whole process kind of tumbles down, because we want you to be as much hands-off as possible to create your users. What you can do is you can take this option to copy a template that you know is good and complete and make an executive template. Now, you will see that I have IT, finance and executive. And in executive, I do have to make some modifications. The description, executive. The OU, right? A user can only belong to one OU. I'm going to move it to the executive's OU. I also need to come in here and make sure that I take away finance and I add in execs, okay? Now notice here that the naming is not always the same. And I did this on purpose because you know the names aren't the same. And they're never going to be the same. So what I'm showing you here is you can duplicate the majority of the settings, right? So my home folder over here is still the same, but anything that needs to be unique from template to template, you simply need to go in and you need to update that information. So now I have copied finance to executive, and I have modified the department, the OU, and the group to make sure that those bits and pieces are correct as the new user is created using this template. Okay? Now, once I have all my templates, I'm done with my templates. But you see how simple that was. Okay? I did not have to configure too much information in my template to make sure that it was going to be fully encompassed. All right? Now, hold on one second. I have, excellent. Thank you guys for asking the questions, and thank you guys in the background for answering those. All right, I'm going to continue forward here. So the templates, we recommend the template be the job role. Now, it could be sub-roles, secondary roles as well. So I could have finance, and then I have finance manager. Any of those things are possible. And with the copy function, it's very easy to produce the templates very quickly. Okay? Now, it allows for unique descriptions, OU, group membership, logon scripts, home directories, and the like. Okay? Now, I do want to mention some key factors for the creation of the templates. First of all, make sure that you specify the naming convention for both the logon and the pre-Windows 2000 logon name. Make sure you pick the OU. Make sure that the base groups are configured. If you are worried about security, we recommend that you have the account disabled when it's created. Then when the employee starts, someone has to call a technician to enable that account. That just helps with the overall security. Okay? Set up your Office 365 and then set up on-prem and online Exchange. Now you are taking what you are doing in a multitude of steps, a multitude of potential scripts, and you have it in one location, and it's very easy to set up. Okay? And this copy option is very powerful. All right, so now we have our templates created. In your environment, without me going over the details, you can literally create 10 templates in less than 10 minutes. So very, very efficient for you to create these. Now we have to talk about the CSV file. Remember, we have a list of users, new employees. We have their first name, we have their last name, and we know which department they're going to work in. How do we get the list of employees into a format that ADManager Plus can consume? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to rely on really one of three options. We're going to take the employees out of the HR database, if there is an HR database, and we're going to have a CSV file created from that. So if you do have an HR database of employees, every morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, the system has to generate a CSV from the HR database with the correct format. Okay? You can also do a script to do it. However you can get it done automated, that's fine. We don't know what you have, so we can't automate that process. We have to start with the CSV file. Okay? These are new accounts that are not in AD, so I can't run an LDAP query against Active Directory because they don't exist. If you do not have an HR database, you possibly have to create the CSV file manually. That's what I'm going to do for you right now, okay? So I'm going to go back to my live environment. I'm going to pull up Notepad, right, the most powerful editing tool in the world, and I'm simply going to create my CSV. Again, I only need the basics for what I'm putting in the basics, okay? For that template that I'm using, I only need these three: given name, surname, and template name. My employees are John, Stone, and John is in IT. I have Paul, Roth, and this is a new employee in finance, and I have Betty Draper, and she's an executive. Now I got to make sure that these names match the template names that I have here. This is 20 plus years of experience in IT. If you love spaces, I'm going to ask you get over spaces. Don't make this IT space template. We know it's a template. It's in the template list, okay? Underscores are fine, but try to eliminate spaces because they really force you in situations like this to start putting in quotes, and it's just easier not to have any spaces, okay? Now, I'm going to save this as a file in my ADMP live folder, and this is going to be my ADMP live.csv. Save it as an all file, and now my file is saved with a CSV format. Okay? So let's recap what I just did. I created a CSV file with the correct formatting, the correct headers, and I saved it into a location that I'm going to be able to utilize. Okay? Now, what location did I save it in? Let's go back. So if I come back over here to my file system, you will see that I have ADMP Live, and if I go to my sharing options, you will see that I have ADMP Live shared. Again, there's an underscore, no spaces, so that I can access this from the automation piece. So you got to make sure that you use the right syntax and you save it in the right location. So it must be stored in a folder for the automation piece. What are some details? Well, you're going to have potential issues. We have names that have a tick, O'Brien, O'Connor, right? So these could potentially cause issues, so make sure that you test these out. You're going to have hyphens in names, right? Joan Smith. You might have two last names, like Van Gogh. So if I have a space in there, well, that's going to cause an issue. That's why I'm saying spaces can be an issue. Sometimes you're going to have someone that has Derek Melber Jr. or Sr., and that Junior or Senior is going to cause a problem. So all of these are things that you have to look out for when you're creating the CSV file, and you have to use the right syntax, okay? You might also have to add attributes manually to the CSV. Let me explain this. If we go back to the template, okay, we're going to jump back into the template here. So if I go back to my templates, let's pick executive, I am able to use wildcards here, but how do I use a wildcard for employee ID? This could just be a number. And how do I get the number in a template if every number for every new user has to be unique? Well, you can't. So what I'm saying is many of these very detailed per user configuration might have to manually be included in the CSV file. So employee ID, telephone number, their mobile number, their home phone number. Obviously, users aren't going to have the same home phone number. So with these configurations, you might have to manually input them into the CSV, or do it afterwards, or you're going to do kind of a script afterwards to pull information. You can always script it, but what I'm saying is that the CSV information has to have this critical information. If you have an HR database, you can actually pull this information automatically from the HR database and put it in the CSV. That's possible, so you can automate that piece. But what about the attribute names? I mean, how do you know what the fax is? How do you know what the mobile is for the CSV header? Well, we've actually taken care of that for you. Now, I have a screen capture here, but I want to show you where it is in the tool. So I'm back here in ADManager Plus, and if I go to Help, then I go to CSV Import, Create Users using CSV, we have a full list of the LDAP attributes that are supported. This is a pretty lengthy list, okay? So these are the headers that you're going to have to utilize in the CSV. Make sure that you pay attention when there is a capital here. Capitals matter in that CSV file, all right? So we're providing you in the tool with the headers to make sure that the CSV file is correct so that you produce that correctly the first time, all right? So now what we have, let's review. We have, under AD Management, our 3 templates. I showed you how to create those in the details. Over here, under a shared folder, we have our CSV file. Now what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to make sure that we set up the workflow. Now, the reason workflow is important is we do not want 100 new employees starting and there be an error in the CSV and it automatically create 100 incorrect users across 100 different OUs. We want to be able to have someone verify that the information is correct, all right? So we want to make sure that we put in workflow and the tool does it very easily. So what do we need to set up for workflow? Well, workflow is basically going to be the idea that ADManager Plus, the automation, is the requester. The next pieces are optional for you with what you want to set up. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to set this up in ADManager Plus. So I go back to ADManager Plus and I go to Workflow. You will notice that I have a requester and I have an executor. You have the options to also have a reviewer and a reprover, okay? What I'm going to show you works the same no matter how many steps you have. You're just going to have to configure those additional steps. So my requester is going to be ADManager Plus itself, okay? So ADManager Plus becomes the requester, then the executor becomes someone, the admin or someone on the help desk, okay? So the idea is that the tool is going to be requesting and then someone else, a human, is going to execute that request, and I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. Now, you have notification rules that you can customize whatever's happening here. So again, you have the option to go in and you have the option to create what it looks like, set up the notifications. Right here's the email, so you can email someone additional emails on what's going on so that everybody knows that the workflow was established. Now, at the base, the workflow needs the requester, which is the tool, and an executor, which is typically a technician or a domain administrator. These are the ways that you configure those particular configurations, all right? So the workflow has a very important piece to the overall picture of the automation, all right? So what do we have? We have the CSV file with the employees, first name, last name, template name. We have the templates, and we have the workflow. Now all we have to do is set up the automation policy, and we're done. So how do we do that? Well, let's go do it live, okay? So I'm going to come back in here into automation, and I'm going to create a new automation. Okay? This is going to be creation of new employees automated. Okay? We're going to do user automation from this domain. Of course, this is domain specific. And then we are going to select the correct task, which is create users. Okay? Now, we are asking you which template should be the base template. If you have a CSV file that has templates included, it ignores this template. But we are asking you, if there is no template name in the CSV, which template do you want to use? We have a template, which is our ADMP live share, and we named that ADMP underscore live.csv. Now, I'm going to verify that this information is correct. Now, how do I verify this? Well, here's an easy way, right? Whack server 100. So here 100, right? So here we have server 100. Here's my server 100. What is the share name? Well, my share name is ADMP underscore live, ADMP underscore live. And then I have ADMP underscore live.csv, ADMP underscore live.csv. You want to make sure that this is correct, okay? Now, if you're going to be doing the appendage of objects, then obviously you can select this option, but I'm going to show you an alternate way if you don't want to do this. It's up to you, okay? I'm going to show you an alternate way when we're done. In order to get the automation to utilize the workflow, you simply click Implement Business Workflow. This is the glue for everything that we're using. We now have the CSV. In the CSV, it points to the template. We have workflow, and the automation puts it all together to create the users. Now all we need is an execution time, correct? I show that it's 11:41 now. I want to do it hourly at 11. Let's do it daily at 11:45. Okay? Now, we're going to say save, because I want you to see this thing run all by itself. So you'll see here the creation of new employees automated. This action is enabled. You can always come back in here and edit it, verify that what you have is correct. And now at 11:45 in 3 minutes, it's going to run, and it should go through, create the users in a request format so that I can verify. So what did we have in the automation while we're waiting for the couple of minutes? We named the automation. We said we want it to be a user task, create a user, the default template, and the location of the CSV. If the CSV doesn't exist, then nothing happens. If the CSV doesn't include a template name, it uses the default. We implemented business workflow and the time we wanted this to be created. My recommendation is for you to generate from the HR database 2, 3, 4 in the morning the CSV, and then 5 minutes later you do the automation. That way everything is kind of tight. Okay? I don't like things happening at the same time. There could be a glitch with the saving. I just want to give it a little bit of lag time to make sure that the automation can work after the CSV is created. And this is, again, just a screen capture of what we set up for the automation. Okay? Final things to consider. The workflow can be a notification or an email. All right? I showed you that. We're going to be able to see a history of the automation. That's how we're going to prove in a minute or two that this thing worked. If you want to remove the CSV each day, you do a simple scheduled task, right? What you can do is delete the CSVs from here. This is the actual command, right? and put it in a batch file in a scheduled task. You can have it run 5 minutes after you've created your users. That way you free up the CSV and there's no question that it's going to be gone. So you can do a scheduled task to do that. Okay? Or you can use the appendage to the CSV. Where are we at time-wise? Did I yap long enough? Not quite. Okay? Now, over here in automation, we have the ability to view when things have run. So you'll see here for each automation, you see an execution history. This execution history is going to allow me to see what's going on. So if I do one here, you will see that it was unable to read the request, unable to raise the request. So it's going to tell me when things go wrong as well as when things go well. Okay? Now, it's 45 now, so hopefully I should have a request to do something. And here's my request. Okay? So at 11:45, which has already occurred, the history tells me that I have a request. This is what the person that is executing this is going to see. Notice my executors, they have the ability to see once they log into ADManager Plus what the requests are. Okay? Now, I can get to it from the all requests or I can get to it through the automation. Either way, users are going to be able to get to this. Now, you will see that I have my ability to view the objects that were raised for the request. What did I put in that CSV? First name, last name, template name. Look at all of the attributes that it configured for me without me typing a thing, without any errors from one to the other for a mistyped letter. It configured the home drive, mail information, home directory. It configured everything for me and a random password. Okay? So this is the power of the tool that now I have the option to review and then execute. Now, before I execute, I want you to see there is no pre-nesting. There's Bill and Ron in executives. HR, right? So not HR, we did IT. And IT, we only have Adam. Okay? So when I hit execute, it is going to go through and execute those creation of users. Okay? I go back to AD and I refresh. Let's go here. Let's refresh. And if I go to my executives, there's Betty Draper. And Betty Draper has email, has account information, profile information is there. Notice Betty Draper was put in. If I go to IT, there's my new IT employee, John Stone. All of his information is 100% correct with his correct profile. It's all right here. So with the right tool, you can actually go through and you can ensure that users are created automatically. The workflow was really the only piece where we had to be involved. If we can pull information out of HR, that's the only piece that we're involved at, which is the most important piece. So you can see that the creation of templates, very efficient and fast. The creation of the CSV, even if I manually do it, it's very efficient and fast. A couple of approve, click, execute, and you're done, and your users are now created in Active Directory. Seamless. So with the right tool, and I'm unfortunate to say PowerShell cannot do this. PowerShell doesn't have templates. PowerShell doesn't have workflow. PowerShell does not have the ability for you to review. We at ManageEngine do. I just went through full description of how to do the process in 45 minutes. You can do this in less than 30 And now you can create users every day, simply and correctly. Correct every single time. So I appreciate your guys' time. I know that you guys were asking questions. I've been kind of going over and jumping over to the questions, and I know that they've been, I see they're being answered here. If for some reason you do have questions after we end the webinar, you can email the events team. We're all a group, we work together, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions related to the webinar or any questions related to the product or the process. But whatever you do, if you don't have ADManager Plus, go try this out for yourself. You saw in 45 minutes how simple it was. I want you to be able to download, install, configure a template, configure a CSV, and import users in AD in less than an hour. It's that simple, okay? So I hope that you enjoyed the information today. I hope it was educational for you. I hope it was enlightening for you. I hope what we can do is we can start solving problems for you so you can get on to more things in your Active Directory environment. So I know that most of the questions have been answered. I'm kind of going through them right now. Thank you to Harry and to Guna on the back end for answering my questions, or the questions of the people. And for Derek Melber and the rest of the AD Solutions team, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy your rest of the day. And if you have any questions, let us know. And until next time, thank you very much.